Towards the end of Iron Maiden's Run for Your Lives tour, I was finally able to witness it for myself in Frankfurt. And despite overanalyzing it in videos before, and knowing pretty much everything there is to know about this run, it was still not what I expected it would be.
It's just outrageous.
So let's talk about the show, the backdrop betrayal, what Iron Maiden do and do not do on Run for Your Lives tour, and then talk about what Iron Maiden will bring into 2026. Here you go. By the way guys, as always, please do not hesitate to comment on anything you hear or see in this video, and especially if you disagree with me, because the whole point of our Up the Iron series is of course to start a conversation. But alright, let's do it. By now, most of you guys know it took me more than 29 hours by bus to get to Frankfurt, but in honesty, none of that mattered. And not just because I finally got to see Iron Maiden on this tour and judge it for myself, but because of having an opportunity to meet so many of you crazy metal pilgrims. Starting right at the Frankfurt train station, at the Iron Maiden dive bar, on the streets of Frankfurt, and the show itself, of course. No, seriously, meeting and hanging out with all of you was the biggest highlight of this trip overall. And I saw Iron Maiden on this trip! So yeah, it does say a lot. And I truly hope that we can make it somewhat of a tradition in the future.
We are blood brothers!
But anyways, talking about the main hangout spot Iron Maiden organized for their fans in each city they go to. On this tour, in addition to the venue itself, Maiden finally also started doing dive bars, basically turning one pub in the city into an Iron Maiden pub, with the Trooper beer on tap, exclusive merch, and Iron Maiden blasting all around. And pub-wise, there's not really that much to say about it. It's a regular, decent pub. But at the same time, I have to point out that having a dedicated spot for all of the fans to gather together, discuss everything Iron Maiden, nerd out about their favorite band, prepare themselves for the show, and be able to purchase some merch without crazy lines is actually a great idea.
Up the irons, amen.
And overall, those who are not new to the show know that for a couple of years now, I've been talking about how Metallica actually started revolutionizing metal tours. And it all started in 2021, when Metallica were celebrating their 40th anniversary in San Francisco and basically turned the entire city into a Metallica hub. As here's the thing, everyone understands that with the increased cost of touring that happened after the pandemic, bands' margins started shrinking drastically all across the world. And since you cannot really drive the ticket prices up even more so, bands do have to find more creative ways to make money on the tour. And this is exactly what Metallica has been doing with their M72 tour for the past couple of years. And I'm really glad to see that on this Run for Your Lives tour, Iron Maiden are doing a very similar thing as well. As come on, we would all be drinking beer before a gig anyways, and I don't know about you, but I would much rather do that with fellow Iron Maiden fans.
Iron Maiden! Iron Maiden!
And especially if you're also a collector and you can get some exclusive merch or a limited edition poster for that night. Now talking about the show itself. Well, sort of. Given the fact that I simply have the best subscribers in the world and the fact that Iron Maiden is one big family, I was not only able to get the last minute ticket to that concert, but also get a first to the barrier access thanks to a fellow metal pilgrim, Henrik, happily standing on our feet and holding our spots right in front of the band for 6 hours straight, which actually gave me a chance to witness the opening act, which I most likely would have missed otherwise. And by the way, talking about the first to the barrier access, I also want to say a huge thank you to the band itself for providing me hospitality tickets for this show, as although in the end I did not really use them, honestly, this just meant the world to me. But given the fact that I was only able to witness one show on that tour, I decided to do it in the rawest and the most true form you can see your favorite band, right there by the barrier. And I actually am very glad that I did, because it was there where I was actually able to notice some small things, which I most likely would have missed at pretty much any other given spot at that gigantic venue. But still, a huge thanks to everyone for all your support.
I love my job.
But anyways, talking about the opening act. Well, first of all, I simply have to point out that I'm not really a fan of Avatar. And it's not really my kind of band. And although I did hear a bunch of songs from them and I actually covered them in our Metal Digest in the past, still I never really was able to get into them per se. But at the same time, I simply have to point out that watching them live, and especially opening for Iron Maiden, was extremely entertaining. Thankfully enough, the mix of styles Avatar presented during that setlist was so broad that pretty much everyone in the crowd could find something they possibly could relate to musically, which was a very smart move. And at the same time, the relentless energy and sheer showmanship of the band's vocalist Johannes Eckerström were actually pretty contagious. And if the first songs from their setlist were met rather indifferently by me, by the end of it, I actually found myself headbanging to their tunes. So yeah, at some point it actually felt like a little preview of what Iron Maiden could have been if Dennis Wilcock would have remained the band's vocalist back in the 1970s. And I think the choice of inviting Avatar to once again open for Iron Maiden did actually work quite well. And although of course I didn't actually go to see them at that concert, well, at the same time I am actually rather excited to see what these freaks will bring on their next studio album, which by the way is out very, very soon. And then came the time for what everyone has actually been waiting for. And with the first sounds of Dr. Doctor, the atmosphere on the stadium has simply changed. By the way guys, here right away I just wanted to point out that being in the first row, I could have actually provided some amazing footage of that concert for you here. But the truth is that I actually decided to fully obey Iron Maiden's request and did not take out my phone for even one picture or one video during the entire show. And you know what? Looking back at it in retrospective, I actually can say that this was possibly one of the best decisions ever. As here's the paradox, although I don't have any footage of it whatsoever, I still remember every little detail of that show, which I was actually able to soak in fully. And the craziest thing is that pretty much everyone in the first row did exactly the same thing, and which is exactly what Iron Maiden wanted. Because let's be honest here, no one really cares if you take out your phone and film even the entire concert, if this does not interfere with anybody else's experience. But if you're standing right there by the barrier and filming the entire concert with your hand held up high, well, this isn't exactly fair to everyone who stands behind you. So yeah, I am actually rather happy that Iron Maiden decided to politely request their fans to limit the usage of phones on this tour. Although I'm also really happy for everyone who actually took some videos from the back, which I can use to illustrate my point in this video. And now talking about Iron Maiden themselves. The biggest surprise of this show for me when watching it from the crowd, and I simply cannot believe that I am saying this, but was its setlist. And of course I saw the Run for Your Life setlist before. I mean, I spoke about it on this channel in the previous videos gazillion times. But still, hearing those songs from the stage at the venue made it look completely different. And I have to point out that the way the setlist flows when you're actually a part of the audience is very different from when you're just watching YouTube videos. And I might even go as far as saying that this is actually one of the most well-balanced setlists Iron Maiden had in over a decade. As in addition to simply kicking off with speedy and aggressive songs, which by themselves already set the mood for the entire concert, the setlist afterwards flows into the fan favorites, then culminating with the biggest Iron Maiden hits to date. And with this flow, it actually somewhat takes you on an emotional roller coaster, which actually allows you as a listener fully enjoy every song on it and not feel completely drenched after a certain cluster of the songs in the setlist. As at least in my opinion, and once again, you can actually fully comprehend it only when you watch this show from the crowd. The insertion of the longer oppuses, such as Rime of the Ancient Mariner or Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, in between the heavy and aggressive Iron Maiden tunes, actually underlines them, at least for me, much better than pretty much any other setlist this band has done in a very long time. And even more, if we take a look at the backdrop videos which the band has prepared for each of those tracks, you can see that those are created specifically in a manner for you to pay attention to the ones which Iron Maiden wants you to feel the most present for. And maybe that's why, at least to me, both Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, the longest songs on this more than 2-hour-long setlist, were actually the biggest highlights of this show overall. And yes, I am actually going to say something now that most of you might disagree with me on, but despite what anyone says, I absolutely loved the video for Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Despite the whole fact that after watching the clips of it online and after hearing quite a lot of reviews, I was actually prepared for completely the opposite. Yet nevertheless, at least to me, it was actually one of the highlights of the Run for Your Lives show overall. And despite, I guess, at parts being created by AI, actually made me absolutely mesmerized from the very beginning until its very end. And another song from the setlist which hit me surprisingly hard, it was, as I already said, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. As although I love the title track from Iron Maiden's 7th studio album, well, first of all, I never was able to hear this song live before that, as I actually skipped the entire Maiden England tour. And then when I saw it amidst the setlist for this run, I was actually rather surprised, as I simply could not really comprehend how you can fit it into a rather energetic setlist like this one. Yet despite all that, this track, and especially its extended middle section, actually became one of the most cathartic and the most mesmerizing experiences of this show overall. And especially since the band placed it amidst the title track for this tour and The Trooper, the song which, despite the whole fact that I've heard it gazillion times live, is actually one of those tracks that I'm always happy to hear the band perform from the stage, and especially because of me being a Ukrainian, of course. Oh, and the last song which I wanted to single out in this video is actually Hallowed Be Thy Name. As first of all, well, it is actually one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs of all time, possibly on par with Revelations, but also specifically because of how amazing the backdrop video for it is, and how great it works together with Bruce Dickinson's performance on stage during that song. As here's the thing, this song specifically shows that Run for Your Life show is not really a regular heavy metal concert. It is a full theatric experience, and that's exactly why I realized that I was absolutely not prepared for this show, despite the whole fact that I watched gazillion videos online before that. As a Run for Your Life show, just like pretty much any theatric performance, can only be fully appreciated when you are actually right there in the audience, catching all of those little details which camera sadly might not be able to capture as well. And now onto the question which naturally bothers so many fans of classic heavy metal acts whenever those go out on the road after a gazillion years of being on stage. And especially if they do the first tour with their brand new band member. As in case you guys missed it, that's exactly how Bruce Dickinson actually started introducing Simon Dawson to the crowd. Not a new live drummer for Iron Maiden, but a new band member, which I actually think is a rather interesting development. But anyways, this time, just like pretty much every time I see Iron Maiden, I stand by Dave's and Adrian's side. Yet interestingly enough, during the Frankfurt show, that side was actually visited quite a lot by pretty much all of the Iron Maiden band members, including Yannick Gers and Steve Harris. So I can say that I actually got a pretty good glimpse at all of them. And first and foremost, I simply have to point out that it amazes me every freaking time I see this band live, how flippin' calm Dave Murray looks on stage. And at least to me, no matter how closely I always follow his left hand, I can never really tell what exactly he's doing there, and every time he moves around the fret, just by the positions of his fingers, you always think that, well, this is going to sound ugly. But then the most beautiful sound comes out of his guitar. And the fact that he still plays most of the lead parts with his eyes closed, as if his mind is simply drifting somewhere far, far away in the distant lands, makes you understand how much he loves and enjoys what he's doing on stage, and makes you want to follow his example and simply close your eyes and get carried away by the music. When it comes to Adrian Smith, well, I guess he's as focused as ever, yet at the same time it looks like Yannick Gers is having even more fun than usual. No, seriously, it actually felt like he was running around the stage even more so and doing even more crazy stuff with his guitar, which I don't know about you, but I actually simply love. And when it comes to the band's leader, Steve Harris, well, in addition to him simply having an amazing tone on this tour, but at the same time it simply amazed me. And this is not something new, he's been doing this for pretty much as long as Iron Maiden have been around. But how Steve, in addition to playing bass, sings every lyric of every Iron Maiden song on a setlist together with the vocalist. So seriously, I actually watched his mouth and tried to catch at least one phrase that he would miss. No luck!
Yeah, unbelievable.
Which kind of made me think that in addition to being the founder and the band's leader, Steve Harris actually is the biggest Iron Maiden fan. No, seriously, whenever he drives around, he most likely listens to Iron Maiden in his car. And this is exactly why this band is still going so strong at the 50th year of their existence. And you know what? I actually think that as long as Steve Harris continues singing the lyrics of his own songs while performing them together with the boys on stage, that means that he's still not tired of it, and the future of one of the greatest heavy metal bands to ever walk this earth is kinda safe. When it comes to Simon Dawson, first of all, it's kind of interesting to see the difference in his appearance whenever he is interacting with the crowd and playing the songs. As first of all, it's worth pointing out that he actually does feel much more comfortable seeing how welcoming the Iron Maiden fanbase is to him, which I think is simply incredible. But at the same time, if you watch him playing drums closely, you'll see how freaking concentrated he is on every bit, as if he is still somewhat worried of messing up, which I actually think shows that he simply cares, and which is a great thing. But at the same time, if you compare his performance during the first night in Budapest and at the show in Frankfurt, well, that's simply like night and day. And whether you like his drumming style or not, it doesn't really matter. I actually think that pretty much everyone can agree that he actually has become much more comfortable with material over the past month or so. And then there is Bruce Dickinson. And here's the thing, during the Future Past tour, I actually made a video of what the flip happened to Bruce and why he's having so much fun on stage all of a sudden. And his much more relaxed behavior on stage to much stronger vocal performance than that he had over the past several years. And you know what? This year, it had actually been taken to yet another level.
That's another story for later.
And please keep in mind that I can't really judge the entire tour. I'm only talking about that one specific performance they had in Frankfurt, but at least to me, he simply nailed it. And he might actually have beaten his own record of holding the longest note during his performance of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son that night. At the same time, I simply have to point out that this vocal performance might actually be tied to a very, very strategically developed set list, which may actually explain the choice of some songs in it, as despite it actually being a rather demanding one for a vocalist, and just to be clear, for a vocalist in his 20s, let alone someone in his 60s. But at the same time, it also masterfully allows Bruce to pace himself, even leaving some strength for him to nail the encore. So what about Run for Your Lives tour? Was it everything I expected from it? Absolutely not! No, seriously, after watching this tour, and specifically after watching it right from the barrier, I realized that I was simply not prepared for it. And the perception of this run that I personally had based on the footage I've seen online and based on the comments of other people, most of whom didn't actually attend those shows, was drastically different from the experience I actually had that night. Because no phone footage can actually catch what is going on in the backdrop videos and on the stage at the same time, and how intertwined some of the stories in those videos are with what is going on stage. And yes, I'm actually once again very happy that I didn't try to film at all, because I actually realize now that rewatching some of those, might have actually skewed my perception of this show. So yes, if you have an opportunity to watch this show live, go out and do it. And as much as I actually want Iron Maiden to finally release a proper live album, as it's kind of been too long, I realized that I would much rather them do it from the Future Past tour than this one. Specifically because I am kind of afraid that the footage will never do this tour's production justice. But anyways, what do you guys personally think about Run For Your Lives tour? And did you or are you planning to attend this show either this year or next year? As the thing is that after watching this show live, I realized that I would not want Iron Maiden to change anything on it and bring it exactly like it is to Japan and Oceania and the Americas as well. And I kind of have a feeling that we will get an announcement of a broader Run For Your Lives tour over the next couple of weeks. But anyways, let us know what you think, and thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and all the support you're showing to me, this show, and Ukraine through this very difficult time. We will prevail. Slava Ukraini!